Enzo, I think there are slightly more questions over simply because he's been so patchy. However, I'm not. I can see you. Will people be able to see our faces in this recording?
Yeah.
Well, then they'll all see your face, and there seems to be a slight hesitancy around Enzo Fernandez. But I'm not gonna.
No,
I'm not gonna
no,
go.
no. My just to clarify, my point on Enzo, like I'm not. And we have to stop. I feel like Enzo Fernandez is going to become just Fernandez now, like or Maresca is just going to have to become Maresca. Like we're going to have to clarify who we're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Um, Enzo Fernandez, like I do have a lot of leeway if this guy was playing with an injury for most of last season. Like
You had a
that's
hernia, man.
it's
You had a
yeah,
hernia.
but like
That's
and
rough.
to try and dismiss that as like irrelevant, I just think is just silly. So and I can't when he arrived in the January of 23 and he played in a really really bad Chelsea team and
Yeah.
he had some really really good performances. Like I won't forget some of the passes he played. He looked and even at the very start of this season. So it's hard to gauge when he got this injury. I'm gonna assume it happened around autumn to winter time because that's when his performances really started to dip off. But at the very start of the season, he did have some good performances. I think there's a very talented player in there. I just think it's like
Outstanding.
my concern with Enzo is off the ball he's a problem. So it's really balancing that out with can he be effective enough? You're gonna laugh, but it's like it's kind of in a way a Jorginho concern of like is the risk reward balance worth it? Like if Enzo is on the ball like there's no it's like undeniable that he is a transformative player for Chelsea on a regular basis. Like you a bit like Fabregas, right? Fabregas had limitations off the ball, but you could deal with it because he had Matic next to him, but also because like this is the guy who's going to win you the game. He's going to play the pass that no one else can. If Enzo isn't doing that and he's just there to kind of like recycle possession, then I think the argument for him, like as this kind of massive player, massively goes down because then I'd just be like, well, Connor can do for me a better all-round job than Enzo Fernandez. But if Enzo's going to be that incredible player, do you know what I'm like? I don't think you can deny that off the ball, Enzo Fernandez is not good. Like I don't what we've just seen of him.
I think more correctly, I think Conor Gallagher off the ball is borderline the best. Enzo Fernandez kind of makes me think of Mourinho, and I'll tell you why. Because I think what Mourinho would do with someone like Enzo Fernandez is say, okay, right, we have this player here who, with one pass, can change the game, and that's great. But we've also kind of got a player in here who looks like he's an absolute shoo-in for a red card often. There is heat in there, and I think actually what a fit Enzo Fernandez post injury, right? I think if someone can kind of coach that element of him a little bit more, finesse it a bit, because you know it's really hard for any player playing in. I really don't like using this term in sort of relation to English football, playing a sort of regista role. You knew it was coming. I think it's really. I think it's really hard for players to be in a system that allows that in the Premier League because those players we've seen it countless times at Chelsea and elsewhere. Those players get run through. They get absolutely run through. There's you get no break. You get run through by the Conor Gallagher's, the John McGinns, etc., etc. The list goes on of players that just run through the midfield. However, if Enzo is able to sort of be coached into wearing that armour and using that passion and combining it with technique, he's going to be unbelievable. I think if we were to look at the best version of what this Maresca team could be within 6 months, which isn't, it's not going to be winning a Premier League, but if it's fluid, if it's getting results, if it's looking convincing, if we're attacking, and actually I think we need to see quite a few consistent examples of breaking down low blocks. Enzo is going to be maybe the most influential player in the whole team. You would think. I kind of think it's going to be Reece James as the inverted defender. But Enzo will be the guy that is on the ball for 85 plus passes every single game. And we just need to see there's creativity. We need to see there's, a bit of flair. We need to see him being brave. I personally, this won't happen under Maresca, but I don't care if Enzo's trying something and losing the ball a few times up the pitch, whether he's playing a clip ball in or, a Trivela pass around the side. I like to see that. I don't mind players trying stuff. That's why I think I like Nicholas Jackson, because I like to see people just giving it, just trying and being brave and knowing that something will come. If Enzo is not just a metronome, but actually he's able to lean into that, lean into that slightly more aggressive side of his game, and also be given the license to be brave with his play and be creative and bold, and trust that Caicedo can do the sort of 5 to 15 yard passes outstandingly too. So it doesn't always need to be Enzo. Then Chelsea are going to have a player that's worth the money they've spent, and I think he's going to be quite a significant leadership person in this team, because Caicedo and Enzo are here for ages. They're not going anywhere for ages. So, I do think that the ownership will stand firm with, you can't buy those kind of players off us. They're here for the long haul. So I'm really hopeful that Enzo can come back and actually it all kind of clicks. And that's the thing. It's the hope that kills you when we talk about this stuff, because we've seen ideologues, we've seen pragmatists, and actually I often think the pragmatists are more successful than the ideologues at Chelsea. One thing I did want to talk about actually before we go is, I was asked, what do I want to see from this Chelsea team next season? And I said, I think Chelsea need to continue this thought that I'm going to present. It's not a dramatic one. Basically, the idea that Chelsea need to really go for a piece of, an FA Cup, essentially, is that we always bang the standards drum. Chelsea fans have these standards that are seemingly unshakable, but I think the core of Chelsea's identity is succeeding in tournaments, especially over the last 25 years. League titles are great, but we've done better in tournaments, and that aspect of this Chelsea team absolutely needs to be there. That if Poch would have got to the final, I think there would have been even more leeway for him, because I think Chelsea could have done what United have done. I think Chelsea could have got a City. It's in those very few moments, Chelsea need to pull. They need to pull it out the fire. And Maresca, I'm sure he would argue that he's deserved the opportunity to try a big club. And we're obviously going to back the team. We're going to back it and see how it goes. But you and I are in a position where we have to analyse, and it's our jobs to do so. It's a remarkably tough climb to get to the top of the ladder at Chelsea. You hope he does it. Obviously, all of us hope that he does it, because it's in our interest directly that he achieves. We all invest our time, our money, our energy, our effort into this kind of stuff, into caring about the football club, because we want it to succeed. Same as every football club. The yearning, the demand at Chelsea is immense. It's arguably greater than it is at any other team in the UK, I think, outside of Manchester United, and the way that the fans demand. I think there are great causes for optimism. I genuinely am really pleased to see that we're going to have players coming back from injury. I hope pre-season is managed well. And going into the season, if we can have, genuinely, man, if we can have Reece James, Nkunku and Fofana in a team, and Enzo in the same team, it's going to be like new signings, especially Nkunku and Fofana. I think people forget sometimes we've got an £80 million defender that's actually, when he played for Chelsea, quality. And at Leicester, quality. Him and Saliba look like the future of French centre-backs until he got that injury. If him and Nkunku come in, I think every time Nkunku's played this year in the dribs and drabs, he's looked great. He genuinely looks like, okay, we might have a guy here that can alleviate Cole Palmer. I genuinely don't want to see Cole Palmer having to score and assist that much. It's great that he does, but he also does it because he's kind of got that Eden Hazard thing, which is, why would I pass it to you, because I can just score it. And that's great, but he needs other players around him to lighten the load a little bit, or to add to it collectively.